A Feminist Website Guide at WCC Stanford EDU and Feminist. Chapter 1. Feminist websites at wcc.stanford.edu/resources/feminist-websites-blogs-and-resources. Anti-violence organizations and resources. BWSS.org, Battered Women's Support Services, an organization working to eliminate the abuse of women, providing education, advocacy, and support services for battered women. iHollaback.org, Hollaback, a project that aims to end street harassment by exposing it. INCITE-NATIONAL.org, Insight, nationwide network of radical feminists of color working to end violence against women, gender nonconforming, and trans people of color in our communities. JusticeNow.org, Justice Now, an organization that works to stop violence against women, including state-sanctioned violence and incarceration, and promotes alternative responses to interpersonal violence outside of policing and prisons. SurvivedAndPunished.org, Survived and Punished, an organization that works to end the criminalization of survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Women blogs and online magazines. Autostraddle.com, Autostraddle, news, entertainment, opinion, community, and girl-on-girl culture. Bitchmagazine.org, Bitch Media, a feminist response to pop culture, run by the company that publishes Bitch Magazine. Blackgirldangerous.org, Black Girl Dangerous, this blog seeks to amplify the voices and experiences of queer and trans people of color. TheboDyesNotanapology.com, The Body is Not an Apology, fosters global, radical, unapologetic self-love which translates to radical human love and action in service toward a more just, equitable and compassionate world. Crunkfeministcollective.wordpress.com, Crunk Feminist Collective, a blog discussion among the hip-hop generation of feminists of color. Everydayfeminism.com, Everyday Feminism, an intersectional feminist online magazine. Feministfrequency.com, Feminist Frequency, a feminist web series about pop culture. Twitter.com/FeministHulk, FeministHulk Twitter. Feministing.com, Feministing, an active online community of feminist bloggers. ForHarriet.com, For Harriet, an online community for women of African ancestry. GuerrillaFeminism.org, Guerrilla Feminism, seeks to facilitate feminist street activism and feminist digital activism around the globe. IllDoctrine.com, IllDoctrine, a hip-hop video blog. ImaginingOurselves.globalfund4women.org/pb/home.aspx?lang=1, Imagining Ourselves, an online, dynamic, multilingual exhibition sponsored by the International Museum of Women exploring the question, what defines your generation of women? Kinfolkcollective.com, The Kinfolk Collective, ramblings of a black woman hellbent on destroying white supremacy. racialicious.tumblr.com, Racialicious, race and pop culture blog. angry-hijabi.blogspot.com, thoughts of an angry hijabi, Desi. Anti-capitalist. Muslim intersectional feminist blog. General feminist websites. fairygodboss.com, fairygodboss, a free resource and community of women who share advice and tips about pay, benefits, and company culture with a focus on gender equality in the workplace. Feminist.com, feminist.com, this site links visitors to activist resources. Protest.net, protest.net, lists progressive and leftist protests, meetings, and conferences worldwide. Girlsinc.org, Girls Incorporated, advocates for girls' needs nationally and locally and develops research-based informal education programs. Hermana.org, Mana, dedicated to the empowerment of Latinas of all ages. Ruckus.org, the Ruckus Society, dedicated to training and assisting environmental activists in the use of nonviolent civil disobedience. Health and reproductive justice organizations and resources. advocatesforyouth.org/index.php, Advocates for Youth, youth-centered organization that seeks to uplift access to sexual health information and resources. Alternate.org/reproductive justice, alternate reproductive justice, a collection of socially conscious news articles related to reproductive justice. AutoimmuneMom.com, Autoimmune Disease and Pregnancy Guide, a resource with information about the intersection of autoimmune disease and pregnancy. Guttmacher.org, Guttmacher Institute. The mission of the Guttmacher Institute is to protect the reproductive choices of people of all genders. NARAL.org, NARAL Pro-Choice America. Mission is to preserve and improve women's access to legal abortion, contraceptive choice, and quality reproductive care. NativesHop.org, Native American Women's Health Resource Center, a compendium of health programs benefiting Indigenous people locally, nationally, and internationally. PlannedParenthood.org, Planned Parenthood delivers vital reproductive health care, sex education, and information to millions of women and men worldwide. SisterSong.net, Sisters Song, Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective. TrustBlackWomen.org, Trust Black Women, supports Black women and girls with implementing reproductive health decisions that are personal, appropriate, accessible, and affordable. International and transnational organizations. AWIDI.org, Association for Women's Rights in Development, an organization committed to gender equality and a just and sustainable development process. CWGL.Rutgers.edu, Center for Women's Global Leadership, seeks to develop an understanding of the ways in which gender affects the exercise of power and the conduct of public policy. GlobalFundForWomen.org, Global Fund for Women, makes grants to seed, support, and strengthen women's rights groups outside the U.S. SIGI.org, Sisterhood is Global Institute, an organization working to empower women in the Global South to define and achieve their human rights. WEDO.org, Women's Environment and Development Organization, international advocacy network working for justice through the empowerment of women. WillPFUS.org, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, works to achieve world disarmament, full rights for women, racial and economic justice and an end to all forms of violence. Women media websites. Adbusters.org, Adbusters, an organization that tries to combat oppressive forms of the media. Fair.org, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, a media watch group that offers well-documented criticism of media bias and censorship. TheRepresentationProject.org, The Representation Project. This project looks to film and media content in order to break down gender stereotypes. RookieMag.com, Rookie Mag. This publication by and for teenage girls gives a feminist alternative to traditional teen magazines. Women Professional Organizations. AAUW.org, American Association of University Women, a national organization that promotes education and equity for all women and girls. NWPC.org, National Women's Political Caucus, the only multi-partisan national grassroots organization dedicated to increasing the number of pro-choice women in elected and appointed offices. NWSA.org, National Women's Studies Association, supports and promotes feminist/womanist teaching, learning, research and professional and community service. Queer and trans organizations. TheTaskForce.org, National LGBTQ Task Force, a progressive civil rights organization that has supported grassroots organizing and advocacy since 1973. SRLP.org, Sylvia Rivera Law Project, works to guarantee that all people are free to self-determine gender identity and expression, regardless of income or race and without facing harassment, discrimination, or violence. TransgenderLawCenter.org, Transgender Law Center, changes law, policy, and attitudes so that all people can live safely, authentically and free from discrimination regardless of their gender identity or expression. Chapter 2. Feminist websites from Feminist.com. Feminist.com has many articles, resources, and websites for women. I think it's the biggest feminist website out there. Feminist.com. Facebook.com/pages/feminist.com/889933267773. Twitter.com/feminist.com. Feminist.com/resources/girls young women, articles for young women. feminist.com/resources/girls/youngwomen/index.html. Young women's websites. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/girls, girls and young women articles. feminist.com/resources/girls-young-women, feminist.com's girls and young women section. feminist.com/activism/collegeactivism.html, feminist activism for the college girl. bitchmagazine.com, Arial, Helvetica, sans serif, bitch magazine. bust.com, bust. dadsanddaughters.org, dads and daughters. empowerment4women.org, empowerment for women. The fbomb.org, fbomb. feministcampus.org, feministcampus.org. feminista.com, feminista. girlsinitiativenetwork.org, Girls Initiative Network. girlsleadership.org, Girls Leadership Institute. girlswritenow.org, Girls Right Now. rachelsdaughters.org, Rachel's Daughters, Inc. rachelsimons.com, Rachel Simmons. rosalandwiseman.com, Rosalind Wiseman. sadienash.org, Sadie Nash Leadership Project. teenvoices.com, Teen Voices. youngwomensproject.org, The Young Women's Project. thirdwavefoundation.org, Third Wave Foundation. ywtf.org/ywtf/home.aspx, Younger Women's Task Force. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/index.html, articles and speeches in several areas. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/aging. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/body. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/family. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/gen-wom. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/girls. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/health. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/men/index.html, articles on men and feminism. About a dozen articles. feminist.com/resources/links/men.html, men's pro-women groups and websites. malesurvivor.org, Male Survivor. mencanstoprape.org, Men Can Stop Rape. menengage.org, menengage. menshealthnetwork.org. mrcforchange.org, Men's Resource Center for Change. nomas.org, National Organization for Men Against Sexism, NOMAS. cfwd.org, the Center for Fathers, Families and Workforce Development. mkp.org, the Mankind Project. whiteribon.ca, White Ribbon Campaign. xyonline.net, XY Online. Many columns/writers at feminist.com/resources/art-speech/columns.html. feminist.com/activism/activismspotlight.htm, activism. Spotlight by the Feminist Majority Foundation. feminist.com/news/womensleadership.html, Advancing Women's Leadership, a series by Marie C. Wilson, President of the White House Project. feminist.com/askame, Ask Amy. By Amy Richards. Chapter 3. feminist.com/resources/links/index.html has women's websites in many areas. Women's websites. AAMFT.org, American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. ConcerningWomen.com, Concerning Women. Envirolink.org/ARRS/FAR, Feminists for Animal Rights. Journeywoman.com, Journeywoman, travel magazine just for women. Tangodiva.com, Tango Diva, an online magazine for women travelers. Womanmotorist.com, Woman Motorist. WAND.org, Women's Action for New Directions. Women's Arts and Culture websites. feminist.com/resources/art-speech/gen-wom/saved-by-a-poem.html, excerpt from Saved by a Poem, The Transformative Power of Words by Kim Rosen. 3blackchicks.com, 3blackchicks.reviewing life with Flava. Arenique.org, AIR. Gallery. Artable.org, Artable, a national organization for professional women in the visual arts. yaranet.net.au/womar/womar1.htm, Australian Women's Art Register. HelloBetty.com, Betty. omiax.um.edu/users/sawweb/sawnet/saw.books.html, books by and about South Asian women. Cinewomeny.org, Cinewomen. sigovi.si/uzp/city, City of Women. collegeart.org/committees/women.html, Committee on Women in the Arts. brooklynmuseum.org/EASCFA, Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art. foundinthemargins.com, Found in the Margins. womenarts.org, Fund for Women Artists. gorillagirls.com, Guerrilla Girls. MOW.org, International Museum of Women. IWWG.com, International Women's Writing Guild. moviesbywomen.com, Movies directed by women. rockrgrl.com, Rockrgirl Magazine. sherryart.com, sherryart. lehigh.edu/deck7/SSAWW, Society for the Study of American Women Writers. sun.rhbnc.ac.uk/music/archive/women, syllabi in women's studies in music. indiana.edu/letters/VWWP, the Victorian Women Writers Project. feministartproject.rutgers.edu, the Feminist Art Project, Rutgers University. wwol.inre.asu.edu, the World's Women Online. Throughtheflower.org, Through the Flower, Judy, Chicago. trebleclefpress.com, Trebleclef Music Press. wisecrackzine.blogspot.com, Wisecrack, Feminism and Comedy Magazine. womenandhollywood.blogspot.com, Women and Hollywood. wendy.com/women/artists.html, Women Artists in History. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/media/femfilm.htm, woman/cinema, women/cinema. womenfolk.com, Womenfolk. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/media/femfilm.htm, Women in Cinema, a reference guide. wif.org, Women in Film. womeninphotography.org, Women in Photography International. womeninc.org, Women, Inc. Resources on Women and Development. wmm.com, Women Make Movies. feminist.com/market/wuma/artgal.html, Women's Animated Art Gallery. nationalwca.org, Women's Caucus for Art. women's2diocenter.org, Women's Studio Center. wsworkshop.org, Women's Studio Workshop. yogagirlgallery.com, Yoga Girl Gallery. yoni.com, Yoni, Gateway to the Feminine. Women's body image websites. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/gen-wom/bodypolitic.html, The Body Politic by Wendy Shanker. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/gen-wom/goodbody.html, Preface to The Good Body by Evensler. Women's environment websites. feminist.com/activism/environment.html, Environmental Challenges and the Power of Women by Circle the Earth. communitygarden.org, American Community Garden Association. cspinit.org, Center for Science in the Public Interest. chasenet.org, Children's Health Environmental Coalition. circletheearth.net. firms.com, Circle the Earth, Grassroots Women Taking Action for a Sustainable Future. cleanwateraction.org, Clean Water Action. Conservation.org, Conservation International, USA. CoopAmerica.org, Co-op America. Defenders.org, Defenders of Wildlife. EarthComm.org, Earth Communications Office. EarthIsland.org, Earth Island Institute. EarthSave.org, EarthSave International. EarthShare.org, EarthShare. EcoMall.com, EcoMall.com. EDF.org, Environmental Defense. EWG.org, Environmental Working Group. Rachel.org/home_eng.hdm, Environmental Research Foundation. FarenC.org, Feminists for Animal Rights. FriendsOfAnimals.org, Friends of Animals. FOE.org, Friends of the Earth. Greenpeace.org, Greenpeace. KidsForSavingEarth.org, Kids for Saving Earth. LCV.org, League of Conservation Voters. Audubon.org, National Audubon Society. NWF.org, National Wildlife Federation. OrganicConsumers.org, Organic Consumers Association. NRDC.org, Natural Resources Defense Council. WagingPeace.org, Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. Oxfam.org, Oxfam. PANA.org/PANA, Pesticide Action Network North America. PETA-ONLINE.org, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA. PSR.org, Physicians for Social Responsibility. PreventingHarm.org, Preventing Harm. Citizen.org, Public Citizen. RAN.org, Rainforest Action Network. SierraClub.org, Sierra Club. Nature.org, The Nature Conservancy. Wilderness.org, The Wilderness Society. UCSUSA.org, Union of Concerned Scientists. EPA.gov, United States Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. VRG.org, Vegetarian Resource Group. WSTAR.org, WinStar Foundation. WEDO.org, Women's Environment and Development Organization. WGGAN.org, Women's Global Green Action Network. WRI.org, World Resources Institute. WorldWatch.org, World Watch Institute. Panda.org, Worldwide Fund for Nature. WorldWildlife.org, World Wildlife Fund. ZPG.org, Zero Population Growth. Women's Men Friends websites. Feminist.com/resources/artspeech/mensvoices.html, Men's Voices, Men as Allies. dadsanddaughters.org, Dads and Daughters. batteredmenshelpline.org, Domestic Abuse Helpline for Men. Feminist.com/resources/links/links_fam.html #fa, fatherhood links. Malesurvivor.org, Male Survivor. mencanstoprape.org, Men Can Stop Rape. menengage.org, menengage. danenet.wicip.org/msr, Men Stopping Rape. men.hdm, Meninist. menshealthnetwork.org, Men's Health Network. mrcforchange.org, Men's Resource Center for Change. nomas.org, National Organization for Men Against Sexism, NOMAS. cfwd.org, the Center for Fathers, Families, and Workforce Development. mkp.org, the Mankind Project. whiteribon.ca, White Ribbon Campaign. xyonline.net, XY Online. Women's Politics websites. feminist.com/news/womensleadership.html, Advancing Women's Leadership, a series by Marie C. Wilson, President of thewhitehouseproject.org, The White House Project. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/mensvoices.html. cbpp.org, Center for Budget and Policy Priorities. rci.rutgers.edu/copy, Center for the American Woman in Politics. congress.org, congress.org. senate.gov/contacting/index.cfm, contacting senators. viz.com/1/congress, contacting the Congress. emergeamerica.org, emerge. house.gov, House of Representatives. ignitenational.org, ignite. iwpr.org, Institute for Women's Policy Research. lwv.org, League of Women Voters. legislate.com, LEGI slate. vote-smart.org, Project Vote Smart. runningstartonline.org, Running Start. sheshouldrun.org, She Should Run. senate.gov, Senate. whitehouse.gov, The White House. White House Project. thomas.loc.gov, Thomas, Legislative Information. tompaine.com, tompaine.com. state.gov/www/global/women/index.html, US State Department Policies on International Women's Rights Issues. voterunlead.org, Vote, Run, Lead. inform.umd.edu/address/topic/women's studies/government politics/women in Congress, Women in Congress. womensenews.org, Women's e-news. democraticwoman.org, Women's National Democratic Club. house.gov/writerep, write your representative, look up representative. Women's race and ethnicity websites. advancementproject.org, Advancement Project. aawomq.org, Albanian American Women's Organization. amnestyusa.org/women, Amnesty International USA Women's Human Rights Program. bisa-hq.org, Black Women in Sisterhood for Action, BISA. bwufa.org, Black Women United for Action. cabwhp.org, California Black Women's Health Project. Chicaluna.com, Chicaluna Productions. Chicanas.com, Chicana Feminist Page. cs.org, Cultural Survival, Promoting the Rights, Voices, and Visions of Indigenous Peoples. EngageHer.org, Engage Her. IndigenousWomen.org, Indigenous Women's Network. Latinitasmagazine.org, Latinitas Magazine. LatinaInstitute.org, Latinas Unidas. Sistersong.net, Sister Song. SoyUnica.gov, Soy Unica. Soy Latina. NAPAWF.org, the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum. TheWomen'sMosaic.org, the Women's Mosaic. Tolerance.org, Tolerance.org. ColoredGirls.org, Women of Color Resource Center. Women's History Websites. feminist.com/resources/artspeech/genwom/nwhp.html, Multicultural Women's History Movement. fordham.edu/halsall/women/womensbook.html, Fordham's Women's History Sourcebook. portraitproject.com, Merrifield's Women's History Portrait Project. frank.mtsu.edu/tilde-women/history/women/wom-mm.html, multimedia women's history sites. nwhp.org, National Women's History Project. newyorkhistory.com/Sally Roche-Wagner, Sally Roche-Wagner. sewellbelmont.org, Sewell Belmont House and Museum, a women's history museum. swsg.org, Strong Women, Strong Girls. nwhp.org/tlp/links/links.html, The Learning Place, Women's History Links, by the National Women's History Project. MatildaJoslingage.com, the Matilda Joslin Gage Foundation. WhereP.net, Women's History Reclamation Project. wic.org, Women's International Center.